Well, happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 14th, the 135th day of the year. There are 231 days left in the year 2024, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, thinking about my dad. He lived to be 96 years old, and I miss him dearly, and he loved baseball. Specifically, he loved the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he got to maybe even love football after I started playing, but nothing touched his heart like a baseball game. He was a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, like most black men his age, based on the fact that the Dodgers signed the first black man in Major League Baseball, Jackie Robinson. I can remember as a youngster him relaxing after pulling at least a 12-hour workday and sitting up late at night to listen to the Dodgers live from the West Coast. There was so much static in the broadcast of the game, you had to strain to actually hear the announcer and what he was saying regarding the game. But Daddy had to have his Dodgers game. And he would hang in there, even if he fell asleep 2 or 3 times during the broadcast. My dad would tell me about games played at Birmingham's Rickwood Field, the Negro League games, the Birmingham Barons, both the black version of the Barons and the white version. Well, Rickwood Field, I believe it's the oldest ballpark in the country. If not, we have someone here today who can delve into that history and enlighten us. Rickwood comes alive again this summer with Major League Baseball. The San Francisco Giants will play the St. Louis Cardinals in Major League Baseball's tribute to the Negro Leagues. We'll play them at Rickwood Field in Birmingham. Excitement is in the air. Major League Baseball in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. Man, people are looking forward to it. Our G-List guest today is Gerald Watkins to discuss baseball once again at Rickwood Field. I'm excited, as I know many others throughout Alabama are. Gerald Watkins is the executive director of Friends of Rickwood and a lifelong baseball fan. He's here to talk to us about Rickwood Field. I look forward to that discussion. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's go to our round table and talk to our regulars, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good.
What's going on in your world?
Well, Tom, the Regents Golf Classic for seniors were held here in Birmingham last week, and I got a chance to attend all days. And on Wednesday, they had the Celebrity Pro-Am, and we had a couple of celebrities in town playing in that event. Nick Saban, Bo Jackson, Kirby Smart, Charles Barkley, the new coach at Alabama, Coach DeBoer, and Auburn's coach Hugh Freeze were among the celebrities that were in town. So that was a big day. I think that was probably one of the largest crowds on Wednesday. And the tournament concluded on Sunday, and Doug Barron won his first senior tour tournament on Sunday. It actually ended on Sunday. So great turnout here in Birmingham for that event.
Okay. And
yes.
What was it? Is it still called the Brunos? What is it now?
No, it's Regents. Now it's called Regents Classic. Yes.
Okay, well, good.
Regents took on the major sponsorship of that after Bruno's went out of business.
Yeah, that's right. Bruno's is gone. That's
right.
All right. What else you got for us?
I want to give us a shout out to Sir Charles Barkley. Also, Mr. Barkley, he said he never misses a segment of 60 Minutes. And And 2 weeks ago, 60 Minutes did a story on the two young women in Louisiana who came up with they solved the math problem. Michael talked about it on last week, and they both attended St. Mary's High School in Louisiana. And it's an all women's Catholic high school, and all the girls in that school have been very successful. They have had 100% graduation rate every year, and all the girls receive a scholarship this year to attend college. And Barkley was so impressed with that program that he's decided to donate $1 million to the school. In addition to that, he's making a $1 million to the women's athletic program at Auburn University because he's so concerned about women's sports. He said, in this NIL deal, most men's programs are taken care of, especially at universities like Auburn, but the women's programs get neglected. So he has decided to donate $1 million to that program as well. So want to say thanks to Mr. Barkley for doing that.
To the NIL program?
Yes, it's for women, yes.
Okay, well, good for him.
Yes.
All right, let's get Michael Walker. Michael, how are you this morning?
I am doing well, TG. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great, thank you. So what's going on in your world?
Well, good morning, Barbara. I hope you're doing well also.
Good morning, sir. I am.
Yes. Actually, I was going to mention Charles Barkley, so thank you for bringing that up, Barbara. He donated and stepped up. That's a good deal.
Yes.
But speaking of past Auburn athletes, I came across a story about Jeremy Johnson. Tom, you remember Jeremy Johnson, the quarterback at Auburn?
From Montgomery?
He was Mr. Alabama in football and basketball, I think.
He's an incredible athlete.
Yes.
Got a raw deal.
Right, yeah. Well, he's down in Mexico and playing professional football down in Mexico at a league. And I haven't seen an update, I think, but this past weekend they were going for his second consecutive championship in that league down there. And he's been MVP twice and already have a couple of championships under his belt. And the people down there love him. He's also kind of like a coach and player at the same time, and playing quarterback down there. And said he's having a great time. He's really enjoying it. And he feels like coaching is in his future. That's what he really likes doing, teaching young players, especially people that are trying to play quarterback, how to play the position and what have you. But he said he's found his peace and he's happy with life right now. So good for him.
Let's refresh Jeremy Johnson's story a little bit. It was about 2012 or so. He was there.
Yeah.
He was, as you said, he was the best athlete in the state of Alabama. He was basketball and football, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was playing for Coach Malzahn, and somehow or another that just didn't go right. And it was the first time I had heard people boo an Auburn athlete, and I just thought that was really ugly. You don't boo college students, and I was a little bit upset with Gus that he allowed that booing to go on.
Right.
Because that kid was great. It just he didn't fit what they were doing, and he was not too long after Cam. And, of course, everybody after Cam had to be a Cam.
Right.
And he wasn't a Cam, but he was a damn good athlete. And obviously he's gone down there in Mexico and done very well.
Yeah. And it's a pretty good league. There are some players from some of the major schools there, some players I think that have some NFL experience. And I remember reading in the article, they said one player used that to go into the UFL now. And so they're kind of moving up from that. But Jeremy is doing quite well. The comparison with Cam is only because Jeremy was 6'5". I think
right.
He was
same size.
But he wasn't. Cam was like 250, 260. Jeremy Johnson was kind of like maybe 200, 220, maybe. But he wasn't a bruiser, Cam was. And he was really more of a pocket passer. And Gus was trying to make him, as they say, quote, a running quarterback, throwing quarterback in his system. And what's so ironic about that, Tom, is that you remember the year before that, Auburn had played for the national championship under Nick Marshall. Mm-hmm. And then when they came back, Nick Marshall was suspended the first 2-3 games of the season for some stuff he got into. And that's when Jeremy Johnson got his start, and he was lighting them up. Yeah, you know? Yes. Yeah. And then after that, you know, they brought Nick Marshall back. Nick came back in and starting lineup. And then the next year, he mentioned that was his first year to really start. And, you know, like you said, Tom, things just didn't go well for him. And they didn't help him out much either, you know.
Well, we've had an issue with coaching quarterbacks. Let me put it that way. I mean, if you look at Jeremy, the two quarterbacks who did really well, Cam and Nick Marshall, didn't require a lot of coaching.
Exactly. They came with talent and they kind of coached themselves.
I mean, you know, you just kind of gave Cam the ball and got out of the way, you know.
Exactly.
And then after that, I mean, you think about Stidham's still in the pros. He didn't have a great kid. Both
right.
Nicks, the brother who was there last year who had to leave, who left.
Robbie Ashford.
Yeah, another raw deal. You know, we have trouble coaching quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah. I've said many times before that any quarterback that came to Auburn and stayed more than 1 year regressed the following year that they stayed there. And that was true. And that was true of everyone that stayed there. The ones that didn't got out, you know.
And they had a thing, too, where they didn't allow the quarterbacks to go off to summer camps and work with a quarterback guru. Right. Work with somebody who could teach them how to play quarterback. And, you know, Bo Nix got drafted in the NFL. Man, he didn't learn nothing about playing quarterback at Auburn other than just get the ball and run with it. You know?
Like Michael said, he regressed while he was there. So
he regressed.
He definitely did.
He played good his freshman year, sophomore year, he regressed and stuff. And he saved his career by getting out of Auburn, getting away from them.
He did.
You know?
He did.
He did.
Same with the young man that went to Liberty to play.
Malik Willis.
Willis, absolutely. You know, they leave and they do exceptionally well, but while at Auburn, they just regressed.
Well, what Tom was talking about, though, after Nick Marshall first year, there's a quarterback guru out in California that contacted Auburn and asked Gus to let him work with Nick Marshall in the summer, and Gus refused to do so.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
Well, you know, you keep hiring these coaches, and they all get a lake house, and then they have to go.
and they get a lot of money to go. So
yeah, they do. They do. Okay. Michael, you got anything else?
Yes, I have a couple things. One thing that's particularly disturbing, but it's something that we all need to be aware of when we have a loved one to go in the hospital. You have to, even though you think the hospital is a place for them to get healthy and that'll take a little bit of load off, that's not necessarily the case. Heather Presti, she's a nurse in Pennsylvania. She just recently, she's 41 years old. She just pleaded guilty to avoiding the death penalty. And the reason being is she's charged with 3 counts of murder, first degree, and 19 counts of criminal attempt to commit murder. Doing this while she worked at 5 different hospitals. And what she was doing was going around and injecting patients after hours. When I say after hours, like low staff hours, with insulin and overdosing them on insulin. Some of the people didn't even need insulin, and ended up killing 3 people. And like I said, had attempted murder for 19 more people. She's been sentenced to 380 to 760 years consecutive incarceration for the 19 counts. And she's been sentenced to 3 life sentences for the murder that she committed. And she would hide what she was doing by doing it late at night when there wasn't a lot of staff. and trying to time it so that the people would expire before the next morning. Because if it happened right in a close time proximity, they would go through these tests to find out what happened. So that's how she was trying to hide her deeds, so that they would miss that window where they do the test to figure out what went on. And this person's 41 and a nurse.
And what was the reason for doing this, Michael?
Yeah.
Haven't found one. It hasn't said.
That's sad.
Yeah.
I don't like going to the hospital. Nobody who likes it, really.
No.
I know. Because nowadays you feel like they're just looking for something anyway because they want a bill and make more money. And now you introduce crazy people like this in there, well, you don't have much of a shot, you know?
That's true.
I was in the hospital. I had to go to the hospital to get checked out when I was in Los Angeles. And I stayed in there overnight. Next morning, the nurse came in. I had my clothes on, man. She said, "Where you going?" I said, "I got to go." My uncle died. My uncle did die about a month earlier. But it's like I got out of there, man.
You're not leaving. You're not staying there, huh?
I wasn't that sick. I knew what was wrong with me.
The last thing I have, Tom, is interesting that, I just find it interesting how things play out, especially from politics. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, he's under investigation for supposedly receiving illegal donation from the Turkish government when he ran for mayor. So he's being investigated for that by the FBI. And they have seized all of his electronic devices. And what's really interesting is that he was at an event speaking, and after the event was over, he goes to get into his vehicle, and the FBI get into the vehicle with him. It seemed like this a little bit of a overreach, but Eric Adams is a former police officer himself. I think he may have been police chief before he ran for mayor. But anyway, he said that he has nothing to hide. He turned over all his electronic devices and stuff. They were investigating some consultant, I think, that maybe had done some things wrong and confiscated his equipment. And so now they're taking it from there and going to Eric Adams. I just think it's probably a little bit of trying to make something out of nothing, but that's what's happening with Eric Adams. And, he's been on the news lately because of all of the influx of the immigrants coming into New York and, putting them up at hotels and doing stuff and asking the federal government, you guys need to step up and give us some money, to help with this. It's a burden on New York City. And New York City is a sanctuary city, and you have those sanctuary cities and states where their rules and stuff allow for an influx of immigration, but now it comes with the dollar part of it. And I just find it kind of interesting now this is coming up at this time. I'm not going to say that the two have anything to do with each other, but I do find it interesting that he's now being investigated for receiving illegal donations from the Turkish government.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know enough about it, but yeah, it does sound as though there's something there. Okay. Oh, I don't know if you guys happen to watch Anderson Cooper Sunday, and they did a thing on transgender athletes. It was really interesting. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. And, there was 2 trans women who were now competing in women's athletics. One was a swimmer, and she won her meet or whatever. And the discussion was, I don't think that the discussion was never against people being trans. The discussion surrounded athletics is about competition. And is it the fairness of a former male now competing against all women. And it was an interesting piece. I don't know where I come down on it, but I don't have anything against people being trans. I do think that athletics competition is about winning.
Right.
And I don't know if that's a fair thing to do. But you get a lot of argument about that and a lot of pushback about that. But I'm not against somebody being trans, but I don't think it's fair to put an athlete who was a male and comes in fourth or fifth in their particular heats, and then they're trans and they can come in first.
Michael came up with the solution for them last week. He told them they need to just start their own category just for trans.
Yeah.
Men, women, and then trans. So.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the fair way to do it.
And their pushback against that is it's not fair to them. Well, I don't know.
How would it not be fair to them? We're saying here's your category, and it's trans women, trans men.
Supposedly you're discriminating. I don't. I mean, I don't have the answer to it, and I don't argue about it. I just thought it was I specifically watched it because I wanted to see how they would come out with it. And they pretty much come out with what I'm saying. They just, people are still trying to figure it out, I guess.
Right.
And I don't know. It's the world we're living in. So
yes,
we'll have to. Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Tom, I do have an update on the story I mentioned several months ago about Birmingham Southern College. I mentioned that Birmingham Southern College was requesting a loan from the state of Alabama to try to keep their doors open, but they didn't get approved for that loan. So the university is closing. They're closing May 31st. As a matter of fact, so this will be their last year in operation. The university is having several celebrations the rest of the month. I think they're bringing in their former athletes maybe this coming weekend and celebration to acknowledge those athletes who played there. And Alabama A&M has put in a bid to actually purchase the university, and they will trying to have a presence here in Birmingham area. So I don't think any decision has been made as to whether they have accepted their bid or not. And then there's also discussion that UAB may be interested in the property. Miles College, I think, has even been mentioned. And then a group of other HBCUs are talking about coming together to submit a bid to purchase the property as well. So hopefully there will be some life on that campus. We just don't know what it's going to be, but it's a sad day to know that Birmingham Southern is closing. So many people have been educated there, and it's a historic property here in the city. So I'm praying that it will be successful.
Well, I hope so too. It's hard to believe that college would close.
Right.
It's been a mainstay in Birmingham ever since I remember.
Right.
And I know that there's probably a lot of sadness surrounding that with a lot of people. I remember Neil Bertie was the president when I was involved. And I hate that. But the fact that people are talking about stepping in, A&M, Miles, whomever, I think is definitely a plus. It's definitely a plus for the city of Birmingham.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Thank you for that. That's great. Okay. Well, anybody got anything else before we move on?
One quick note is that Auburn is in Birmingham now. Yes. Auburn University purchased the former Hood McPherson furniture store, and they have done $22 million worth of renovations and have opened it up. And the sign out front says Auburn in Birmingham, and it's going to house the urban studio for the architect, design, and construction from Auburn, and the Harvard College of Business will be the homes and located there.
Well,
And I
good.
think the provost is also going to have some space in that building. So yeah, it's going to be good for Auburn to have a presence here in Birmingham, a true presence. They've always had that urban studio, which was always kind of a unknown building downtown. So this would be good to know that Auburn has signage up, and we're here in Birmingham now.
Well, they bought that building several years ago.
Yes.
When I was on the foundation, I was chair of the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally got around to doing whatever they're going to do with it. So that's good. Okay. Anything else? Well, let's see what Sean's got for us. Sean's got a minute. Sean.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute. This past Sunday was Mother's Day. I hope all the beautiful mamas enjoyed their weekends. And for the mamas not here with us, we carry you in our hearts and we dream of you often. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom would read The Wizard of Oz to me, a classic children's literature story. And on this day, it was first published in 1900. In 1939, it later turned into a film adaptation and became one of the most beloved movies in American cinema. As you know, The Wizard of Oz is about Dorothy and her little dog Toto, who run away from home, gets caught up in the cyclone, lands in the Munchkin City, and when she lands, she drops the house and squishes the Wicked Witch of the East. She gets on bad terms with her sister, the Wicked Witch of the West, and she goes on a long journey. Along the way, she meets the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, and they help her find her way to the Emerald City so that she can go home. Now, my mom thinks I'm totally nuts, but every time I see the movie and every time I read the story, to this very day, I could never muster, only thing that I could ever muster was the Wicked Witch of the West really wicked? Or was she wicked because Dorothy dropped a house on her sister? What do you think?
Killed my sister. Who killed the Witch of the East? Was it you?
No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to kill anybody.
Well, my little pretty, I can cause accidents too.
Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Okay, well, thank you, Sean. We appreciate it. All right, well, let's move on to our G list. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list. And our G list guest today is Gerald Watkins, and he's the executive director of the Friends of Rickwood, a lifelong baseball fan. He volunteers with the American Baseball Foundation, the Alabama Coaches Association, is a member of the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame Selection Committee, and served on the board of directors of the Friends of Rickwood for 10 years before being named chairman in 2010. So let's bring on Mr. Watkins and talk about Rickwood Field and the upcoming Major League game. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, good morning to you, sir, and it's an honor to be on your program, and nice to see you other folks as well.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. So thank you so much for being with us. So let's just start with Rickwood Field. Okay. Rickwood is the oldest ballpark. Is that true?
It is. It's the oldest baseball park in the country, and it started in 1910, so it's 114 years old. But it's also the last ballpark standing that served as a home for the Negro League teams, the Birmingham Black Barons. So it has a lot of distinctions, and we're very proud to be able to showcase it to the world coming up in June.
So tell us about what's coming up in June.
Well, we've got this little thing called Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is coming on June the 20th. There'll be a game between the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Francisco Giants. It'll be the first time there's ever been a regular season Major League Baseball game played in the state of Alabama. And prior to the big game on Thursday, we have the minor league game, the Birmingham Barons and the Montgomery Biscuits on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we have a celebrity softball game, which is tightly under wraps now. Tom, you may know some people that could give you some secrets about it, but right now MLB is keeping that information well under control. We just know we're hearing A-list celebrities will be coming to town, and it's going to be a big event as well. So we're going to be Baseball Central for the whole world for 3 days in June, and I can't wait.
How did this come about? Just curious. How did you guys manage to
Well,
get this going?
Well, in 2021, Major League Baseball announced that they were going to do a game at the Field of Dreams movie site in Iowa. And I had just retired from my real job at Regions Bank and was taking on Rickwood Field. I thought it was going to be part-time and a hobby. Didn't turn out to be that way. I started thinking, why can't we have a game at Birmingham's Rickwood Field, which is a real Field of Dreams? And I imagine that Willie Mays is standing in right field or left field or center field one day, and he's dreaming about being in the big leagues. And to me, that's a real Field of Dreams. So I reached out to Major League Baseball, and over time, they became interested in coming to the park. They visited, I believe, in October of 21. They said, we think we have something here. Let's sit tight, and we'll kind of develop a plan. And they developed a plan, which turned out to be celebrating the tradition of the Negro Leagues at America's oldest baseball park, the park where Willie Mays played his very first professional game, and so on and on and on. And so after that fateful meeting in October, they continued to develop the plans. And in July of 22, about the time the All-Star game was being played, I got a call from Major League Baseball, and they said, we're coming, and we're going to make Rickwood Field a very special place. And at that point in time, it was just buckle up and hold on, because it's been like a runaway train.
I was going to ask you, how many new friends do you have?
I have cousins and aunts and uncles and friends that I've never even imagined. And there's been a tremendous amount of attention to the ballpark, which is something we really needed. And it's been tremendous. The phone calls asking for tickets, you can imagine what that's been like. But I've tried to enjoy every minute of it. And we're less than 40 days away now, so pretty soon we'll be there.
And how many people will the stadium hold?
It will hold about 8,100 people, and originally it would hold almost 10,000, but we had to make some adjustments to create some areas for handicapped individuals, additional spaces for the press, and we lost a few seats to that, but what we lost in seats we'll gain in exposure nationwide and worldwide through TV, and the folks that are going to come to Birmingham are going to enjoy it. It's just it's going to be an amazing time, and I can't wait.
And is this a tribute to Willie Mays in some way?
Well, it's actually a tribute to the Negro Leagues. They didn't want to single out Willie because there's so many other people, so many other athletes and fine gentlemen that participated in the Negro Leagues, and we didn't want to leave them out. So it wasn't billed as a celebration of Willie Mays, although Willie is Willie's going to be the focal point. And he's 93 years old, just had a birthday on May the 6th. And we're really hoping that Willie will be able to attend. But there are a lot of Negro Leaguers who are still alive and had time at Rickwood and throughout the Negro Leagues. And we want to make sure that those guys, that they get their recognition as well. So it's been billed as a tribute to the Negro Leagues total.
So, Barbara, you got a question for Mr. Watkins?
I do. Good morning, Mr. Watkins. How are you this morning?
Hey, Barbara.
I actually saw the video on the news where Ryan Howard went around and actually hand delivered invitations to the Negro Leaguers who are still living here in the Birmingham area. You know, of course, we have Charles Willis and Reverend Greason, William Greason, Al Holt, Ferdinand Chico Rutledge, Joseph Marbury, Ernest Harris, Clifton Forge, and Charles Willis. And there's probably more, but talk about that. You know, them going around and actually hand delivering and how much that meant to those players. It looked like it just, they were just lit up from that experience.
Well, I know some of those guys and I've known them for a while, and I can't think of a better way that Major League Baseball could have done that than going to their homes and sending Ryan Howard, who has some roots here in Birmingham, a fine young man, but for him to go in and present those tickets to those guys, it had to be the thrill of a lifetime. And they went through a lot to play the game they loved, and I'm just happy for them. I'm happy they're going to be recognized. And I can't imagine yet what MLB is going to do at game time to pay tribute to the Negro Leaguers. And we've lost so many of them, and there aren't many left. But the ones that are here are going to be celebrated in a way that only Major League Baseball can do. So it's going to be tremendous. And as I said, I know some of these guys personally. They come to the ballpark sometimes and sit around and chat with me. And they've got great stories, but they went through a lot to play the game they loved. And I'm glad that they're here and they're going to be recognized.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Michael?
Yes, good morning, Gerald. Thanks for
Hey,
being
Michael.
with us today. You were talking about some of the different players that are going to be there. I was checking out the story in Reef. Am I pronouncing his name? Is it Ref or Reef Blue?
Reef Blue.
Yes. He went to Parker High School and used to go over there as a kid and stuff and work. And then he ended up playing with the Barons, I believe. But he also has a cousin by the name of Vital Blue that played with the Birmingham Barons and then went on to play with the Oakland A's. And Reef was saying that back in the time, he didn't make it to the major leagues was because his best baseball was based off of speed. And that time they were looking for home runs. So that kind of held him back a little bit. And it's just kind of interesting how the game has evolved. Now they appreciate speed, to steal bases and stuff.
Well, baseball changes every few years. Something happens. There's a new trend. And yes, baseball was at some points it was a power game. Now it's a speed game. Pitchers throw the ball very hard now. But it evolves all the time. And an interesting story about Mr. Blue, if I can, I spent a lot of my career at South Trust Bank, and there was a gentleman that was a guard in the parking deck that I would talk to every day, and it was Mr. Blue. Never, ever connected that he loved baseball and I love baseball. And then one day I'm at Rickwood Field, and he walks in, and I said, I know you. And we gave each other a big hug, and he remembered me and I remembered him. And it's great the way baseball connects people. And Mr. Blue is one of my favorites.
Yeah. I was looking at the outside structure there. It seems like you guys tried to keep it in the same look that it had back, even though you updated it and everything. And I remember that building a long time ago in another life. I worked at South Central Bell, and the Birmingham Barons was my account. So I used to go over there and talk to them about the telephone systems and stuff like that. And so I remember that field, but it looks fantastic based on what I see now.
The outside has been spruced up a little bit. We painted it last year, and we've done some things to just make it more appealing to the eye. But most of the work that's been done is on the inside of the ballpark. We have a totally redone playing surface that is equivalent to any major league stadium. The drainage system they put in will allow us to have a game within 30 minutes after one of our classic Alabama thunderstorms. Then we don't have to walk around with a hose pipe and spray the water on the field now. We have an irrigation system. The walls have pads, so if a player crashes into them, they don't get hurt. The extended netting has been placed down the foul lines to protect the fans from injury. And it's spectacular to see what has happened, the transition from what we had last year in October to what we have now. And Rickwood has been an active ballpark for many years now. You remember the Birmingham Barons and the Rickwood Classic, of course. And then Miles College has been playing their home games at Rickwood for quite a while. Birmingham High Schools play there. We're a very, very active part of travel ball. And then we have a fantasy camp. We have a home run derby. And companies like law firms, banks, just businesses can come and rent the ballpark for a day and treat their fans to not only history, but the chance to goof around and play ball on a favorite ballpark. So Rickwood is very, very active and will continue to be even more so after the notoriety of this game ends.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you something about the field. Is it natural turf there that you have put down in the field?
Oh, yes. We believe in trying to keep everything realistic. So we would only do natural turf. and it was put in about 3 weeks ago. And if you could see it today, you wouldn't believe it. If we had lawns like that, we just sit and look at them all the time. But it's an emerald ocean of green, and it's totally spectacular. And Major League Baseball has an on-site team. They are watering it every day, putting fertilizer on it. They've already cut it 3 times in 3 weeks. So they are taking care of it as if the World Series was going to be on it next week. So it's just really fabulous.
Yeah, it's gonna. One of the reasons why I asked you about that, I had an opportunity to tour the Braves Stadium here, and during the tour, they were telling us to stay away from the grass and not to even touch it because oil from our fingers would get on the grass and cause a spot on it and stuff. I was wondering, is your grass that sensitive? And you keep people telling them not to even touch it with your hands.
Wow.
Well, we have signs around the grass that say "keep off the grass." I haven't heard that, but I'm not surprised. The technicians that they have on site to take care of the grass are it's like their baby, and they want to take care of it at every level. And they're out there doing things all the time, and you can't even understand what they're doing. But it's a work of art.
Gerald, is there a museum at Rickwood?
Good question, Tom.
Museum?
We do have a museum. It's fairly small, and we're looking to expand that. But we focus on the events that happen at Rickwood. We have pictures of the players that played at Rickwood during the 114-year history. We have a locker that was built for the film crew that did the 42 movie, and we have Chadwick Boseman's glove from the movie. We have a giant picture of Reggie Jackson that he signed for us when he came in to work on his video. And we have historic uniforms, baseballs, gloves. We even have a table full of old gloves where fans can take these old gloves from as old as 1928 and go out on the sidewalk and toss the ball around. So we try to make it very interactive, and it's most everything in our museum is not behind glass. You can reach out and touch it and feel it and experience what it was like to play baseball long, long ago.
That's great.
And Mr. Watkins, I know that there's a Negro Southern League museum downtown Birmingham. Are you affiliated with that museum at all?
We're friends, and we have actually loaned something to them to have on display. And I think if we ever get our museum fully developed, we may borrow something from them. We're not connected, but we are friends. And Barbara, please call me Gerald.
I will do that. Thank you.
Barbara, where is that downtown? Where is that downtown?
It's right basically between UAB and Railroad Park. Is in that area. I don't have the actual address, but it's in that area. The new, I think they call it sort of Midtown. So,
it's actually within walking distance of the ballpark, Regions Field.
Okay.
And it's very, very first class. I love going there. It pays tribute to a lot of the guys that I watched growing up and enjoy getting to know some of them.
Yes.
Gerald, I got something you'll go ahead. Who's that? Barbara? Who said something? Gerald, I got something you'll appreciate. When I wrote my book, I did a signing in Birmingham, and several of the Negro League guys came over, and they all signed this hat for me. Johnny Fairley, Ernest Harris, Cleophas Brown, Robert Muhammad, and they signed the ball for me as well. And they told the best stories, man. It was great. You know, they told stories. I asked the one guy, he said he played center field. I said, well, could you go get it when he came out there? He said, didn't nothing fall out there but rain, man. And another guy told me.
Well, I asked one of them, I said, how did you play the game? He said, hit them, go get them, and slide both ways.
Yes. One guy said he hit one back up through the second base hole. And he said, when I slid in the second, the ball hit me. That's how fast I was. So it was great. I treasure these things.
Those are some great stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gerald,
Go ahead, Mike.
Let me ask you a question. You know, you served on the board of directors of Friends of Rickwood for 10 years. What was your mission on the board of directors of Friends of Rickwood, and how did that lead you into becoming chair of now Rickwood Field and everything?
Maybe he didn't hear you.
I guess not. Can you hear me?
Had a little bit of technical difficulties there.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I will repeat it. I said that you served on the board of directors for 10 years of Friends of Rickwood as a member of the board. What was the mission when you was on the board for the Friends of Rickwood? And were you envisioning this happening one day, and how did you become the chair?
Well, I joined the board because as a banker, they encouraged us to be involved in civic activities. And I was a chairman. I was the treasurer of the Heart Association in Jefferson County for about 7 years. And when my time there ended, I was looking for another thing. And then it just so happened the Friends of Rickwood were being formed. And so I asked to join and got on the board and then served on the board. And our efforts at that point in time were simply to try to keep the ballpark open with events going on and do minor repairs as we could and try to raise money just to make sure the ballpark was in good shape, the field was playable, and so on and so forth. So over that time, we hosted a lot of high school games. We had men's leagues and things like that. And then I guess about 12 years ago, our chairman, who had done a fantastic job, and Tom, I think you know Coke Matthews.
Yes.
Coke needed to step aside because his job was taking way too much time. And they asked me to become chairman, and I said, fine, I'll do that. And so I became chairman. And then 3 years ago, I decided to retire, and I looked at Rickwood and thought, well, you know, I might be able to do some things out there that I've thought about doing for many years. I didn't have time. And so I talked to the board and said, I think I can run it full time on a day-to-day basis as well as being chairman. And they all said, take it and run with it. And so I did. And I've had a chance to meet an awful lot of people, and then getting to be at the forefront of bringing MLB to Birmingham has just been I could say it was a dream come true, but it was one of those things that was so wild. I mean, 5-10 years ago, I never dreamed that we could have Birmingham host a major league game. It's something like the Field of Dreams had not even been done. So it was never a thought that MLB would come to Birmingham for a real game. Maybe an exhibition game would have been a thought, but never to have them come and play a regular season game. And then they started doing this thing at the Field of Dreams. And then they did the London series. They played a game at Fort Benning, and all of a sudden it just kind of clicked that, you know, we've got something none of those places have. We have the oldest ballpark in the country. We've got a place where 182 Hall of Famers have played on our field. And that includes the Negro Leaguers like Willie Mays and Jackie Robinson. And that includes people like Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron. And just so many people have played on our field. And it's a special place, and baseball fans are more history related than any other sport. I mean, I love football. You can sit by a guy and he can probably tell you a lot about baseball history and facts, but he may not tell you about whether Alabama or Auburn have a quarterback that threw this many touchdown passes, but he can sure tell you where they stand in the polls. But baseball is a numbers game, and it's a tradition game, and bringing it to Birmingham has just been it's just been incredible for the Friends of Rickwood and myself. And the Friends, we're made up of 32 people, professional people, people of all races, female, male, and we work to keep the ballpark up and to present it in a great fashion for fans. And we've been so happy over the years to provide a great place for high school kids and travel ballers to play. But now we've got a chance to just showcase the ballpark for the world. And not only that, we can bring a lot of people to Birmingham who have never been to Birmingham before. They can experience our restaurant scene, which is fabulous. There's other attractions. A lot of people come to the Rickwood experience having come from the Civil Rights Museum. So we just touch a lot of people, and we're going to be able to touch so many more after this big event. And having folks like the three of you interested enough to have me on and talk about it is it's a thrill and a dream come true in so many ways, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
How far are the outfield fences? They compared to Major League? Is it?
They're very consistent. Center field is 392, right field is 332, and left field is 323. So it's approximately the same it was before they started doing the work on it. But you might be interested to note when the ballpark was first built in 1910, center field was almost 500 feet.
Wow!
And I had a ball player look at that and tell me, he said, Gerald, I couldn't hit that with steroids. But baseball was played differently back then, and no one was hitting home runs. They were playing singles, doubles, and stolen bases. But baseball changed in 1936. We got lights and we moved the fences in, and that's where it's been since that time.
I remember when Charlie Finley and his Oakland A's, and he had Bada Blue and Blue Moon Odom, and all those guys played out there at Rickwood Field.
That's right.
Great.
And 2 years ago, we had an all-day visit with Reggie Jackson. Reggie was one of my heroes growing up.
Yes.
When I played ball, my uniform number was 44. So having Reggie spend the day with us was a lot of fun. But Reggie is one of three guys that hit a ball over the roof and the fence in right field. And he looked out there and he said, I was pretty good back then, Gerald. And I said, yes, you were. And he said, I want to go out there and see if I can see how far the ball went. So he took some members of my grounds crew. They walked out there and walked into the woods next to Village Creek. And believe it or not, they found a baseball. And he wanted to claim that it was the one he hit, but we let him have that story. But it was a long way, but he was some kind of slugger, and he went on to be Mr. October after starting in Birmingham in 1967.
Yeah. The Mr. October and the straw who stirred the drink. That was
That's right.
Himself.
Did you let him keep the baseball?
We did. We did. I had him sign one for me that I'll keep, but he got to keep that one, and he had a good time. And we had a good time visiting with him.
That's great.
So, Gerald, is there anything else you'd like to tell us that we had to ask you? I think this has been wonderful. It's great.
Well, I want to say again, I appreciate you reaching out, and I've known of you for a long time, sir, and your movie career, your TV career, and your football career, and it's an honor to be on your show, and it's nice to meet Barbara and Michael. And I'll just say, if you guys are in Birmingham and you want to swing by and look at the park and see what we've got going on, we actually had to shut down to visitors as of yesterday, but that doesn't mean I can't sneak in friends. But I just I'm just excited to be able to talk and share the story of with anyone, and it's a story that has been just not very well publicized for a long time. And you'd be surprised how many people come to the ballpark from Birmingham saying, I didn't know this was here. I didn't know you could come in. And we're showing it off not only to the world, but we're reaching people in Birmingham that may have heard of it, but never knew anything about it. And once the MLB game is gone, we're still going to have a lot of baseball and a lot of events. And we welcome people to check out our website, rickwood.com, and come out and be a part of history.
That sounds great. And I want to thank my good friend Coke Matthews, who you mentioned earlier, who arranged for us, coordinated us getting together with you. And I've been knowing Coke a long time. So I think this is great. I think it's great for Birmingham. And I look forward to it. And I will come by and visit with you guys at some point. I'd love to do that.
Well, if you do that, Tom, I'm going to put a 1928 baseball glove on your hand, and we're going to play catch.
Okay,
that goes for Barbara and Michael as well.
I'll have to do that. Thank you very much.
Great. Anybody got anything else?
Well, I'd just like to ask Gerald, do you have anything else big that you're going to promote after the game between the Giants and the Cardinals? What's next?
Well, the next big thing that we have in October, we have a home run derby. And
Wow.
we have 4 former big leaguers who will play. And I think our headliner this year is going to be Brian Jordan that played with the Braves. We usually compete with we have the 4 big leaguers, and then we have 2 college kids that come out, and we try to copy what they do on TV with the Home Run Derby. We'll have a sponsor. We'll pay for 150 kids to get a free hot dog and a T-shirt and stand in the outfield and try to catch the ball that don't go over. And it's a big fun event. And I will tell you, put that on your calendar and come out as my guest. You'll have a blast. And it's something new.
What's the date?
October 27th.
Okay.
It's on a Sunday. And we have to stay away from Saturday because that other ball bounces around a little bit.
Right.
But we have a really good time with this. And then I don't have any concrete plans, but we think we will have the SWAC baseball tournament either in 2025 or 26. They are currently doing that in Atlanta, and they're not feeling a lot of love in Atlanta, but they'll feel a lot of love in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And then we'll also talk to the folks at the SIAC conference about bringing the conference tournament here. That's the conference Miles is involved in. So we're looking at those kind of things. And Major League Baseball has a tradition, if you will, of doing these games 2 years in a row. So we may have another game next year with MLB. So we're hoping for all those things. And Rickwood will continue to be a part of the sports fabric in Birmingham.
Thank you, man. We appreciate everything you're doing. That's great. Barbara lives in Birmingham. I'm in and out of Birmingham a lot. Michael's in and out of Birmingham. So we just appreciate it and think it's great for the city. Looking forward to it.
Well, I look forward to meeting you in person, and my number's on the website. So just look it up and call me if you're in town, and I'll give you we don't roll out the red carpet. We roll out the green carpet.
Yeah. I love it.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Gerald. We appreciate it.
All right. You guys have a good day, and let's play ball.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, that was great. So my closing comment for today, or as I see it, is about baseball. Sandy Koufax versus Bob Gibson, Los Angeles, 1963. Final score was 1-0 in favor of St. Louis and Bob Gibson. Koufax pitched for the Dodgers, Gibson for the St. Louis Cardinals. It was awesome. I was 11 years old and visiting Los Angeles, and my Uncle Aiken took us all to a ball game, and it happened to be a game where 2 Hall of Fame pitchers would put on their best show. If you were looking for a lot of home run action, this was not the night. If you were looking for smoking fastballs, tricky curves, this was the night. The game ended 1-0. If you weren't a pitching enthusiast during that time, you may not have appreciated the masterpiece that these 2 men pitched that night. I surely did. My uncle did. And my dad did, listening back home in Alabama. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank our G-List guest, Gerald Watkins, and baseball at Rickwood Field. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it on this April the 14th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. If you've got an extra one, give one to someone else today. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.